Hello everybody, I'm KC and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About. Today, let's talk about the Doctor Who Season 11 premiere, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. It's time for everyone's favorite renegade Time Lord to be reborn again, in possibly the biggest change between Doctors in the show's history. And you thought the last age gap was a huge change. This is only my second time in this position of a whole new Doctor, and my first time transitioning into a whole new creative team along with everyone else. This was a big enough event to be broadcast simultaneously in all broadcasting countries. It may be the most anticipated era of Doctor Who since the show came back. Does it live up to the hype? Well, let's find out in The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Two strange alien objects crash to Earth, which is totally a new thing for modern-day England, one of which collides with a train, gaining the attention of several individuals, including a new yet familiar face. And the race is on for the Doctor and her new friends to solve this mystery and save the world. Let's start with the most obvious point of conversation. This is the debut of our first female Doctor, and she is brilliant. And that means a lot coming from me, because before Jodie Whittaker was announced, I didn't really want a female Doctor. I don't really have much of a rational reason why, I just thought it would be weird, fearing that it would be more of a hollow attempt at diversity rather than what was best for the character. I was all for changing the Doctor's race or something, but gender was a bit much for me at the time. That may sound silly in hindsight, but it was how I felt. And I want to be honest about that, because as is the case with a lot of stuff like this, once I actually saw it and the promotion started to come out, and I started seeing Jodie Whittaker in interviews and how much she knew what the show represented and how much she loved it, my concerns were pretty much laid to rest. And this episode was the final nail in that coffin. Let's take a look at the 13th Doctor's first actions. She gets flung out of a flaming TARDIS, crashes to Earth, suffers from a scrambled sense of focus from regeneration, rambles on about who knows what all the time, and drags innocent people into what could be a war between alien races, constantly putting their lives in danger. Yep, she's a Doctor. I try not to judge a portrayal of the Doctor purely from their first appearance because they're always a little mixed up after regenerating, but this is a very promising start. Jodie definitely has the mile-a-minute energy and larger-than-life personality for the part, and while we haven't reached the point of me being convinced that she could be over 2,000 years old, this is just the first episode, so I'm sure we'll get there. And there is a scene towards the end where we almost get there when the Doctor briefly mentions her family. It's short, but definitely impactful. I'm also very, very glad the fact that the Doctor is a woman now wasn't the sole focus of the episode or didn't have a ton of jokes surrounding it. That was my biggest concern going into this, that there would be cracks like, lol, the Doctor has boobs now, but thankfully, there's nothing. They have one small and funny joke about it.
Why are you calling me madam?
Because you're a woman?
Am I? Sorry, half an hour ago I was a white-haired Scotsman.
And move on. Anything concerning the Doctor's change is the standard search to discover herself again that applies to every regeneration. This could also be attributed to the fact that the show's newest showrunner, Chris Chibnall, has worked with Jodie Whittaker before, so he probably knows how to write her strengths into the fibers of this iconic character. Some thought that this connection got her the job, but that is not true. Chibnall may have gotten Whittaker an audition, but she had to rise to the occasion and prove she was the best person for the role. And this is hardly the first time a potential actor for the Doctor got their foot in the door by knowing people on the crew. David Tennant knew Russell T Davies before he was the Doctor. Peter Davison was asked to audition because he'd worked with the showrunner at the time on an earlier show. Even Tom Baker, the most iconic Doctor of them all, got the chance to audition because he sent a letter to a friend who was working on the show asking if they were looking for any talent. In fact, this episode kind of reminds me of Tom Baker's first episode, Robot. Outside of this regeneration, it's just another investigation episode. The Doctor gets on his feet and gets to work, like any other day. And that's the same kind of vibe you get from this, just with the Doctor having less resources to work with and having to rely on her new companions networking around to help gather information, which I really liked. Even if it was an investigation surrounding aliens, it had more of a street-level mystery vibe to it, which may make sense given Chris Chibnall's most successful product before this, but this is the kind of stuff I eat up. Most of it taking place at night added even more atmosphere to the situation. and was thankfully shot and lit in a way that was dramatic and fitting, but we could still see everyone clearly. Something that much bigger productions still can't master. But let's take a minute to talk about our new group of companions. Yeah, there's a handful of them this time around, and I'm totally on board with that. I know some people aren't crazy about multiple companions, but I've always liked the idea. To me, it gives you more options for reactions and resources with every adventure, like with the groups for the 5th Doctor, and heck, my favorite companions are Amy and Rory, because they were such a great team and amazing backup for the Doctor. And that looks like what we'll be getting here. Yes, every single one of them is from modern day England again, but this group is different enough among themselves and the previous companions that I'm sure most people will look past that. So our companions this time are Yasmin, a cop in training, Ryan, a guy trying to get by with dyspraxia, his step-grandfather Graham, and his grandmother Grace. Except Grace wasn't in any of the promotional marketing. Oh no. Anyway, I really like this group. While at first I was hoping they didn't already know each other so they could spend the next 10 episodes getting to know one another, as the episode went on, I realized that they may know each other, but they don't really know each other. Yaz and Ryan only knew each other from school, and Graham has only been married into Ryan's family for a couple of years, and in that time, they haven't really connected. We all have relationships like this, of people we're familiar with but don't know very well out of lack of trying or making a bigger effort to get to understand someone. And if we've learned anything from the last 55 years of Doctor Who, is that the one thing that brings people together is running away from things that want you dead. Not only is this group diverse among themselves in terms of race, age, and occupation, but what I especially appreciate about this cast is that no one is dead weight. Everyone finds some way to contribute in almost every scene, and so far, they all have fun and different relationships with the Doctor. Yaz tries to uphold her authority when the Doctor takes over the investigation, and fails, but she tries. Grace has a more motherly approach to the Doctor, ready and excited to help at every turn, especially since she's still recovering from regenerating. And Graham is the one who thinks this is all absurd, which, considering England is being invaded by aliens constantly and news broadcasts cover them regularly, he really shouldn't, but whatever. He plays his part and doesn't make things worse like most naysayers do, which is appreciated. And his objections at the situation are pretty funny.
Why is she running at another alien?
You just stand there, come on!
Well, now you're all running at it.
But out of the whole group, Ryan is probably going to be getting the most focus. He definitely seems to have the most issues to overcome, not only with his dyspraxia, which is a great addition and obstacle to give a companion, but he's implied to have a very strained relationship with his father. He definitely has one with Graham, and not only has his mother died, but... yep. Called it. On a side note, I love how the episode starts with Ryan commenting about a remarkable woman in a vlog, and you think it's going to be the Doctor, but it's Grace. I really like stuff like that, especially when done this effectively. But before we head that far into the episode, let's take a look at our alien. Our first big bad alien of the week for the 13th Doctor is a warrior of the planet Shenza, Zim Shaw.
Tim Shaw?
There are some who call me Tim.
A warrior race who is surprisingly not here to conquer Earth for once. In fact, for the Shenza, Earth is nothing more than a testing ground for future warriors, to capture one random designated human and bring them home as a trophy. And their faces are coated in the teeth of their victims. That is really gross, but it is a creative design choice, so they get points for that. I do always appreciate when an alien species is fleshed out more than it needs to be. The tooth thing is a clue, but it doesn't have much significance, but it adds a culture to this alien race. And having a biological reason for him being in this suit of armor that makes him look like one of the better Power Rangers villains. It could have been cool for the sake of cool, but instead, it's literally cool. You get it? Because the Shenza live in subthermal temperatures and he has to wear the suit to keep his body temperature down, so it keeps him cool. Shut up, I thought it was funny. Basically, this is just a game to him. The particular human who is chosen at random that he's after is nothing more than a prize to be discarded for the sake of gaining power and authority. It may not be the most compelling motivation on the show, but it's a solid idea that's fleshed out really well. And the smaller scale is part of what I really like about this episode, because it's treated as just as imperative as any other threat. The world wouldn't have ended if they never took action. As soon as Zim Shaw got what he wanted, wanted, which was just one random person, he would have just left. Probably would have disabled the bombs too. Oh yeah, the group had bombs implanted in their collarbones and then they're disarmed off screen. It's not as important as it sounds. But one person being put in danger is too many for the Doctor. And even if she's trying to rediscover herself, that is the character trait of the Doctor's that shines through. Their nobility. There was a line in this episode that was in practically every single trailer.
When people need help, I never refuse.
And it's true. Even without the TARDIS, even without any of his equipment, and even when she's still unstable from having every cell in her body deconstructed and put back together, the Doctor will always help. The scene of the Doctor confronting Zim Shaw in the climax may be my favorite scene in the episode, because it is so proudly, unquestionably Doctor Who. And that, above all else, is what a new Doctor's first appearance needs to be. Doctor Who is largely about change, yes, but its core spirit and messages have more or less remained the same despite that change. So the job of a Doctor debut episode is to assure people that despite what's changed, this is still the show they love. And if you ask me, with every laugh, chase, tear, and epic scene on top of a 10-story crane, this has proven that without a doubt. That and Jodie Whittaker got an epic get off this planet moment, which was so badass. Before we wrap this up, quick thoughts on the smaller stuff. I dig the new outfit, the coat looks comfortable enough to make me want to get one, and especially love the little touch of the suspenders. And I do find it kind of funny that she's the first Doctor to buy her clothes from a store, instead of just raiding the TARDIS wardrobe or stealing them.
Those clothes belong to people, you know.
Love the new sonic screwdriver to pieces. Not only is it really cool that she just made this out of scrap that she found in a junk house, but the design is just so sleek. It's both easily recognizable as this iconic device and distinct as its own thing. I can't wait to get my hands on one to add to my collection. And I am a bit disappointed that we'll have to wait a while longer before we see the new TARDIS interior. That wait was especially confusing for me because, at least in the BBC America broadcast, there was no theme song or credits. So since the episode ends on a cliffhanger of the group being transported into the vacuum of space, it felt like the episode just kind of stopped. But I guess those are just more reasons to get hyped up for the next episode. Because overall, The Woman Who Fell to Earth is a very promising start. It's not the best episode in the show, and it hopefully won't be the best one this season, but it did everything it needed to in a fun and engaging way, while tugging at those old heartstrings a little to remind us that adventuring with the Doctor isn't exactly a walk in the park. Introducing all these very new elements while reminding us that this is still the same Doctor Who we've always loved. And with some of these changes being some of the biggest in the program's 5-decade history, that's no small feat. All I have to say is that I look forward to seeing what the 13th Doctor and her new companions get up to in their many adventures to come. Don't expect a review of every single one though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.